we're finding every available dollar within our budget of what we already have from the taxpayers.
It's a half-hearted roads plan that we're going to vote on. It's like putting Olay on the Wicked Witch's face. It ain't getting no prettier with that.
It's been that kind of week in Lansing. And with a Monday midnight deadline approaching, what will and what won't get Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's blessing? A few days ago, we sat down with two key players, a Democrat in the House and a Republican in the Senate. Both spelled out the high-stakes political and fiscal differences between the two major political parties. Democratic leader Christine Gregg and Judiciary Chairman Peter Lucido. It's Sunday, September the 29th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight on the News. And welcome to Spotlight. As we sit here today, will we, look into your crystal ball, will we avoid a government shutdown? Representative?
Absolutely. There will not be a shutdown. The doors for business in Michigan will be open and everyone will get the services that they need. It's time to get this budget done.
You're convinced of that?
We will get this budget done.
All right. Senator?
I agree. There's no way there's going to be a shutdown, not on anybody's watch, as a result of taking care of those customers called our constituents. And more importantly, we don't need another shutdown like GM is right now being on strike.
For that average voter that's been sitting there watching this process, way back in March, when it was cold, the governor introduced this budget. We are now at the tail end of September, right up against the deadline. Has this been too much of a game of budget chicken?
We should not be where we are right now, the very last days of the fiscal year, moving into the new fiscal year. There was time in July and August when all the parties could have come to the table and really hammered out the deal. Republicans, Democrats, the governor's office. A lot of us were in Lansing working all over the summer, but we never came together totally to get this done earlier, and that's put us in the position we're in right now.
I call it political chicken, and I'll tell you why. To go ahead and ask for a tax of 45 cents to go fix the roads and holding out until she realizes it's a dead deal. In fact, to the point of the leader here in the Democrats, she's agreed. Hey, it's a dead deal. It's a dead issue. We were there in the summertime. We had the right at that point there to try to come up with a solution other than the 45 cents. It's still out on the table, and we're going to find a solution for long-term road funding. But for right now, take what you can get. That's what my father told me all the time.
All right, and let's table roads for just a little bit. We'll get to that conversation. Education, there was a meeting on the mind in terms of how to finance education in this state. Are both of you comfortable with where things are right now, or still not enough?
Yeah, it's still not enough. I mean, education is one of our top priorities in this state, and we need additional revenue going into the classroom, supporting our teachers, making sure that we're taking care of, our students that want to go on to career technical training as well. We have had study after study that says even at a baseline, we're underfunding students by $2,000 per student. And then we also need to move more toward a weighted formula where we put additional resources where they're needed the most. And we're just not there yet, but given where we are with the revenue and the budget, we've got a decent budget going to the governor, but it's not enough.
Senator, do you agree? I mean, both D's and R's said we need more money for education. The squabble was over exactly how much, but there's more money than there was last time around.
Absolutely. My family has always said something of a greater amount is a good thing, and we're blessed to have that. But like Christine said, the representative said, when you don't have it in the budget, you can't get but 3% increase, which is $15.2 billion with a B going into the educational component. $30 million more for special education, which I'm blessed the fact that this is happening. It's gone up since we both went into the legislature. It's always gone up. It'll continue to go up. Is it where it was years ago? Is it meeting inflationary needs? The questions are, how much do you have to allocate, and you have to move forward from there. If we hit a bump in the road with a recession or a drawback, I'll call it, we want to make sure that we're doing the fiscally responsible right thing. And those teachers do need our assistance, as well as the administrators. Everybody works collaboratively together to give the best result for those children who are getting educated, K through 12.
Representative, as the Democratic leader, you represent Farmington and Farmington Hills. When you go back to your constituencies, as they've been watching this whole budget process, what are they telling you they want the priorities to be?
Well, in fact, I just had a town hall just a few days ago where 60 of my constituents showed up and we had this very discussion. And they absolutely want education to be a top priority. They want to make sure that nobody is worried about turning on the tap water, that our water is clean throughout the state, and that we're making sure that our roads are addressed. Roads and bridges, we have to make sure that we have safe travel to work, to school, to play, to shop. And we're just not there yet. So, you know, there's an understanding that the job
Are
isn't
they telling
done.
you they're willing to pay a whole lot more in terms of extra revenue to get these things? Much of what you just outlined,
Yeah.
they can't even see because they're up under the concrete or up under the water.
Right. Well, there's absolutely no dispute that we need $2.5 billion in additional revenue, and they agree on that. Now, there's a lot of differences on where you find that additional revenue. My constituents are willing to chip in their fair share of it, but they also want to see the heaviest trucks contribute to this as well. They also want to see business come to the table, and let's have that fair share approach to make sure everyone's got some skin in the game to solve the problem.
Senator, you head up the Senate Judiciary Committee. You represent the lion's share of Macomb County. You got a little section of Wayne County in there. When you go back to your constituents, what are the priorities?
I'm going to say this. I must be traveling on a different road than my counterpart in the House. And my constituents must have.
Only thing we can agree that those roads are probably bumpy no matter what. Yeah.
We have the second largest in my district. It's the second largest school district in the state of Michigan, other than Wayne County. Utica Community Schools, make no mistakes about it, is the second largest population of students. Yes, education is a very big component and is the #1 issue in the district. The roads are right up there with it. And I've put together some bills, Senate Bill 28 and 29, that talk about reallocating Public Act 51's money. Why? It's been around for almost 70 years. It's disingenuous, it's unequitable, and it's unfair to the individuals in the Tri-County, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and it starts to gender out further than that. It grabs the attention of the legislature, which has never been able to be changed. I think it needs a ballot initiative, and I think we need to reallocate the money first before we start adding to those dollars. And the governor, to her point, said any new money would go around 51. The up north people didn't like that, Chuck, and I don't either because of this. We need to readdress Public Act 51 like we did with the auto no fault, which we both passed. This is the first time in the history of 45 years that auto no fault was looked at and actually passed, not talked about. We need to do the same with Public Act 51, which is the mechanism of how we fund our roads. We need to do it differently, and I know my counterpart in the House, as the leader, the Democratic leader, would agree. Let's see those right. Let's take care of that business first before we start to give more money. It has to be done.
Now, I wouldn't say do it first. I would say doing it together. We have to make sure that we're really using the right formula for the revenue we have now, but we don't need any more studies to say that we are not funding it enough as well. So we need to do both in parallel.
All right, look, hang on one second. I know you both have more to say. We need to sneak a break in here. We'll hurry right back with more questions to the representative and the senator. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. Representative, you introduced the 4-bill package that, if it all came together, we'd get about $1.25 billion towards our roads.
Right.
Did you somewhat undermine your Democratic governor by the action that you took, or was that sort of an acknowledgement that the approach that she took was the wrong approach?
No, the governor has said if there are other ideas on the table to get to the $2.5 billion, let's talk about those. And so after talking to thousands of constituents, going to town halls and coffees, we were bringing forth the ideas of our constituents. So the heaviest trucks.
Didn't that give the R's a little bit of ammunition to say, see, we told you that that 45-cent gas tax was way too much and no one was ever going to go for it, and you spent a whole lot of time
talking about it and campaigning on it, and now here comes one of your own members in to say, I've got a better idea.
You know what? We're still waiting for the Republicans to give us their ideas too, right? So I think this is what problem solving is about. This is what we as elected representatives are about, is continuing to bring these ideas so that we have the best possible solution. So we'll keep working on it and bringing in our ideas and wait to see when the Republicans have some additional ideas too.
Senator, Republicans came up with a plan that would create about $400 million. Well, that's a
Wait a second, Chuck. They're putting
that's
in.
not even close to what they're talking
They're
about.
putting in $400 million, but opened up the door and said, Governor, we're willing to sit down and go to long-term solution, but don't shut our state down. You and you alone have the only power if you want to veto. If she wants to line veto after that budget is presented to her, that $400+ million, go right ahead. But that's not going to help Michigan, and it's not going to help the people that have to go on those roads right now.
And how concerned are you about her line item vetoes?
I'll
Because
tell
that's
you.
the power that she has. And how concerned are you that whatever you guys come out with in terms of the House and the Senate, that she starts nitpicking here?
When you start to look at the House and having the leadership go ahead and get together and actually agree with over 90 votes, 18 noes, on a budget on education, including the vote of the leader here, I'm pretty impressed that that representation of bipartisanship relationship is getting along just fine. Why would you stand in the way and shut the state down when you're giving all the traction to the members working together? This is showing the majority of people in the House of Representatives doing their job and doing it timely and doing it rightly. When you line item veto bills like this that go to her and she says, I have the right to do it, then you're not playing with the people, you're politicking, and that's not what we're here
No,
about.
I mean, that's absolutely her right and her authority as the governor
I don't
to go
disagree.
through that, the K-12 budget. The support on those for the changes that came in to make sure that we were doubling the increase to special education. Is it still where it needs to be? Absolutely not. We made some fixes to at-risk funding. We looked at the partnership models as well. We made some good fixes to what came out of the original conference committee. So we wanted to show that bipartisan support in making these changes, but then the governor's got to do what she's got to do. And if she goes in there and sees particular line items that needed to be vetoed, that's her right, and that's what she should be doing.
Representative, are the Democrats in the House on a completely different planet than the Democrats in the Senate? We've seen that they aren't necessarily agreeing on things, and sometimes one side is siding with the governor and the other side isn't, and vice versa, and doesn't that create a problem for the governor?
This is about the policy that's going, right? So we worked on policy improvements in the House, and the Democrats wanted to stand by working together to make those improvements. Now, in the Senate, they wanted to make sure that we were standing up for the long-term point that this is still not enough. So we're both talking about the same thing, that we need to fix what we can fix, but we also need to make sure that everyone understands that we are continually to underfund education, and we have to make sure both of those points are made.
Senator, back in the spring up on Mackinac Island, the governor joined the bipartisan effort, signed the historic no-fault auto insurance, and she said to me, okay, I've played ball with them, now I expect them to play ball with me on my #1 priority, and that is fixing the roads. You guys didn't play ball, did you?
Oh, yes, we did. We've not only played ball, but we also brought the ball, the bat, and the gloves. You know, in my family, there's 8 of us, 8 Italian children, and mom and dad make 10. If you're giving more, you should be blessed and say thank you. But my colleague here knows that we only have so much in the family here to deal with as far as how much bread is on the table. I can't cut something that doesn't exist. To take that time that all these leaders that got together and have the governor now veto it, that's being disingenuous. But let's go back to the roads. She wanted $2.5 million. Not one Democrat brought a bill to go ahead and support her. To her point, she said no. Families can't take all that. I've got an empty bucket right now. I'd like to know if we can go ahead and do something other than tax the people, because that was clear in 2015. Don't tax me.
But let's talk about
I
how
didn't see a tax for even half of that much
Yeah,
money.
but let's talk about how we even got here too, that we had to separate the long-term. The only solutions that were even proposed by the Republicans were on the back of our teachers. And to make those kind of proposals and only give the governor those options, the other leaders those options to solve the problem, that was not genuine to come in there. That was not playing ball. And that's why we're in the position we are now, that we've had to separate these two issues to make sure that the doors stay open. If the Republicans would have come to the table with real alternatives for
Why is it the
generating
Republicans?
2.5,
All right.
then because we're in this together, Pete, right? You just said
All
it.
right, all right. Let me ask a simple question before we get to the break, and then we'll come, and then we're going to talk about some things that you guys do agree
fix the
on.
damn roads.
All right, simple question. All right, you get the budget done without the roads in there. Now the question becomes for the people, how do we fix our roads? Look into your crystal ball again. Are we headed for a vote from the people next year that this is going to be a ballot issue in a presidential election year, and that's the only way to resolve this one way or the other?
I certainly hope not, because we were all elected to solve problems, and we know it's a $2.5 billion problem. We've got to get back to the table and do our jobs to try to come up with a solution. And of course, you know, this has happened time and time again. When we don't do our jobs and we haven't come up with these solutions, the people have said, you know what, we're going to vote on it
So
then
don't
too.
hold the budget hostage,
Yeah.
but you can do
Sure.
this among the elected leaders, and it doesn't have
We've
to
got
go
to
to
get
the
back
people.
to the table and come up with a solution, but of course the people can also have the right to go straight to the ballot as well.
I will not approve anything to go to the ballot, and this is the reason why. Everybody wants to push it back on people, but people elected leaders, and we have to do what we need to do, and that's start leading. In addition, a 1% sales tax across the board constitutionally cannot be done by the leaders who have to lead. It has to be done by the people, because there is constitutional protections that the people have to vote. But at the end of the day, I still indicate that the way the funding mechanism, before you get to where we have to go, should be readdressed on Public Act 51. I know my colleague in the House agrees with me, because it's treating Southeast Michigan inequitable and unfair. And it's not right when we're bringing in the revenue that takes care of this whole state.
All right, got to get to a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about something that I think the two of you agree wholeheartedly on. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Expungement and returning citizens. This is something that you guys are totally on the same page with?
Yes.
Well,
Yes or no?
Yes.
Don't let me put words in your mouth, but
Yes.
This
I mean,
concern.
there's so much that we can be doing together on a bipartisan basis to make sure that we are addressing criminal justice reform, that we're making sure that returning citizens do have an opportunity to succeed. And there's just a lot of great bipartisan work going on right now in that area.
As chairman of the
I
Judiciary,
mean, that fits right into your
Kidding me?
committee.
That's my wheelhouse,
That's
Chuck.
it. No doubt
And,
about
and,
it.
and in addition, you know, practicing attorney for 33 years as the only lawyer in the Senate. Out of
only one?
38 members, I am the only one that actually can say I studied the law. It's interesting that I came there with an agenda to clean up criminal justice reforms that weren't working in our system and costing the taxpayers way too much money. These reforms on a bipartisanship relation, you've got to give somebody who's coming out of jail or prison, if they are truly did what they needed to do and followed the rules, give them a pathway to get a job. Give them a pathway to get reinvented into society. We are so lacking of skilled trades. And some of these are individuals in prisons as well as jails are learning a skilled trade in the very place that they are getting rehabilitated. At the end of the day, if we're doing the same thing over and over and it's costing us taxpayers more money, change it. Do a reform, see if it works, because whatever we did before isn't working.
And with the expungement rules, we have an opportunity to be one of the leading states in this area too. We've seen Pennsylvania and Utah implement some clean slate initiatives, and we can be right there behind it championing these initiatives.
You all have seen a lot in Lansing. You've seen times when you would probably say the legislature has been totally dysfunctional, or government in general has been dysfunctional, and you've probably seen times when it has worked. Rumor is that you guys, G's and R's, basically really like each other, and as a result of that, you're able to work through some of these thorny issues, even though to the outside person it may seem you are not at times?
Yeah, we do. We've developed relationships over the years. Speaker Chatfield and I came in at the same time 4 years ago, at the same time that Pete came in as well. And you develop relationships, you learn the different areas and interests of your colleagues, and you say, hey, why don't we get together and work on this? And that work is being done. I would say it's improved a lot in this term because we do have divided government, and we need to make sure that we are creating more opportunity for bipartisan initiatives.
And is the
we're seeing
governor
that.
taking the right approach to bipartisanship?
Absolutely, absolutely.
We'll see
You know,
if
we've
there's
had
veto on the
quadrant
budget.
meetings,
We'll
right?
see.
Under Governor Snyder, there were no
see.
quadrant meetings. The governor from day one said, let's get the leaders together, let's get to know each other better on a personal level, and let's work through some of these tough issues. But we've got to keep talking, and that, I think, was a great, refreshing approach.
Senator, your analysis?
I think it's working just fine. I think that the leaders who meet with the governor have an opportunity to at least dialogue with each other and bring that information back to deal with their members. But at the end of the day, the governor has her authority as the executive branch. We have our authority as the legislative branch. We listen to our constituents to bring those ideas together, and you have to get the 56, 20 and 1 to get it passed for the people that we serve. So at the end of the day, the representative and I both came in together. We had offices next to each other. There was never a time, and you can agree, that we've ever had anything but dialogue. Whether or not we disagreed on the dialogue that we had, that happens to be, the way the process works. The process is the most important. If the process doesn't play out, the people don't get served, then it's a waste of time. But there's too much dialogue that is disrespectful and disingenuous that I see from people that don't want to try to work together.
We'll be back with a little more from our legislators right after this. Yes or no, are you positioning yourself and interested in running for the governor of this state?
There is no doubt in my mind, if somebody doesn't step up and lead, then I will do what I need to do to lead. And that's what it's all about, leadership and being able to govern. And in these times, people want somebody with guts, bravery, honesty, and integrity. Start leading and get the people what they deserve.
Representative, you have any interest in being governor one day?
No, I'm very happy representing the people of Farmington Hills, and doing a lot of work in Oakland County. She's doing a great job.
Are you interested in going over to the Senate? Because a lot of people look and they say that in the House you don't have the leverage that the Democrats in the Senate have.
Well, I tell you, one of my other focuses is 2020 to make sure we change the gavel situation too in the legislature. But what's going to be really interesting is the redrawing of the lines after the 2020 census. So when we see what the landscape is in 2022, I'll let you know then.
All right, those sounds like stay tuned for both of you. Representative, thank you so much for coming in. Senator, thank you so much for coming in. And finally today, a reminder about the Charles H. Wright Museum Gala on Saturday, October 5th from 6 until 9 p.m. For more information, go to thewrightgala.org. I'm Chuck Stokes. Have a great week.